Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to another Games Explained episode. I am Bridger, and today we'll be talking about Stellaris, another Paradox real-time grand strategy game. This one is all about space empires and the future of technology. So, like most of these, this is going to be a long-form, sort of full explanation of all of the game systems that I can get to and talk about in this couple hours here. Joining me, as in the past, is my good friend Mark. Welcome, Mark.
Yeah, hi, Bridger. Thanks for having me here.
So Mark is playing the the role of the brand new player. You haven't really played this at all, but you've watched a few videos here and there about it, right?
Yeah, that's right. I tried to wait and see to get the proper training rather than make some mistakes at the beginning. Yes,
you
exactly.
Have made a great choice. Now let the hate flow through you. Okay, so actually no, we are not going to let the love flow through us because we're playing the United Nations of Earth. You can play a bunch of different types of species/empires, from extremely xenophobic slaughter monkeys to super utopian Star Trek future democracies. And that's what we're starting as, because Star Trek seemed like a logical place that would ground people in, oh, this is what we are. So that's what we are. We are a representative democracy, humans with warp travel, and we are fanatic egalitarians. We're all about making sure everybody is living as in the highest standards possible, and we're also xenophiles. We like finding and making alliances with other alien races out there. So we're beginning right at the beginning, obviously, and we'll talk more about what all those things do in a moment. So for now, what we are going to be looking at is, where do we start? So first, the very valuable tips about hotkeys. So we are looking at the solar system here. Obviously, we have started in the actual solar system with our sun, Sol, and Earth, and Luna, our moon, etc., etc. But if you play the game, you'll often start in a randomized starting solar system with random names and random planets and things like that. But if we want to zoom out, you can click the button down here or press the E key, which is pretty easy and useful to hit because you can easily move around with WASD, and then E is right there to zoom you in and out. And so if I put the mouse over a star like Sirius, and then I hit the E key, it will zoom into Sirius. Now, we don't know anything about Sirius, so we see just gray blobs. We kind of know, well, there's a planet here, but we don't know anything about it. And then if I go back and hover over Sol and hit E, then we'll zoom into Sol. So that's how you maneuver your way from the galactic map to the solar system map. And these can tell you a lot of interesting information. Any planets that have a gray name, it means that you've had sensor data about that star. So we can zoom in and see, well, there are planets here, and if it's gray, you would get to know whether there were any habitable planets there. So because we're humans, we would generally know, oh, there's a continental world or a tropical world that we can inhabit there without having to do anything weird like terraforming. We don't know about these stars. These stars don't have names. We've never been there. We don't know if they have any habitable worlds. We don't know anything about them. They might be controlled by aliens. We don't know. That's how the world, the universe starts. We don't know a lot about what's going on.
Now, remind me again how you zoom out. You told me to zoom in with E.
E
right?
lets you zoom into a solar system that you're hovering over, and then the mouse wheel actually does this zooming action, is what I mean. And then if you hit
mouse key.
And then if you hit E again, it zooms you back out to the galactic view. So these are two different views, and on each view I can use the mouse wheel to zoom out and zoom in. But once I get to here, I can't zoom in any further without hitting the E key while hovering over the star system of choice that I want to zoom in and look at. Does that make sense?
Got it, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here we are, and we can zoom in just a little bit further onto our colony, our planet of Earth, by clicking on Earth's bar here, and that shows us all the details about this planet. Now, for the planets that we directly control, they will also be shown in the outliner here. So even if I'm on way out in the galactic map, I can click on Earth from here and get that same pop-up on the left. So that's a nice little quick cheat way to get to it without having to go, oh, now I gotta go find Earth, zoom in, and then click on it. No, it's right up here. Perfect. As you can see, it also shows our military fleets, our civilian fleets, and our rally points, and I'll get to all those as we go. So let's take a look at Earth. So this is the planet summary. It shows you how many pops we currently have on the planet. Damn, we have 8 of 10. Why does it say 8 of 10? Because it's got a maximum size of 16. Oh, I know why. And right now we have a food surplus of 3. Habitability is 100%. You always have 100% habitability on your home world. That habitability represents the maximum happiness that your population can have. So if you colonize a planet that has a maximum habitability, has a habitability of 40%, your people cannot be happier than 40% no matter what. There are technologies that improve the habitability of other worlds. So that's valuable in the future.
Okay.
It also says the type of world. Now, in this game, there are 3 categories of worlds, and within each category, there are 3 types. So we are a temperate type, and that is, we're a wet type. And it's tropical, continental, and ocean. That's the wet type of world. So continental is our starting world, and we most easily inhabit our highest habitability, 80% habitability, on other continental worlds if we find them. We get 60% habitability, however, which is still quite good on tropical and ocean. So we can still live on those fairly well. If you think of this percentage, 50 is where there's no bonuses and no penalties to happiness. But if you have 40% happiness, then that gives you some penalties. If you have 60% happiness, that gives you some bonuses. So tropical and ocean, still quite good. But then you have the dry worlds and the Arctic worlds, and those are going to be much, much lower habitability for us until we get some kind of terraforming technology or some other technologies that help us out. So
okay, now where am I seeing on here that this is
a continental world right here. So this is the planet class.
Oh, there it is.
And it's one of the 3 wet climates between continental, tropical, and ocean. So wet climate is our sort of starting area where we're going to expand into. We can't really expand on any worlds that aren't wet worlds, with some exceptions. So this is also our capital world, so it gets some bonuses. You'll see any other things up here are special modifiers for that planet only. And everybody starts with the capital world like this. This also shows how many local resources are available on the planet, and that is not including any special buildings that we place on top of it. So these are the starting resources that you can get from the planet. This is the actual resource output of the planet when you take into account which resources our pops are actually mining and what buildings we have built on the planet. So these are naturally occurring resources. This is the total when you include all the improvements we've made. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Also have our governor here, and governors always lower unrest, increase build speed, and clear blocker time. And they do that based on the number of their skill. So a 0 skill is doing it this is a 1 skill guy. 2 skill will double this, a 3 skill will triple this, I think, etc., etc. So planet governors, very valuable, and especially some of them have special abilities that they can impart that give more bonuses to their planets. Let's go back. Edicts we'll talk about later. Let's look at the other tabs here. The surface. This is where it all happens. This is where the magic happens. This is the surface of the planet. And you can see this planetary administration is the central building on our planet. You can tell that at a glance because it has these little pluses adjacent to it. See that?
Yes.
These little triangles with a plus in them. The planetary administration, the capital building, it's actually got multiple versions. So it's like planetary administration, then capital complex, then empire complex that you can upgrade over the course of the game. But this capital complex, whatever it is, always provides an adjacency effect of +1 to minerals, food, and energy to the 4 orthogonal directions around it, just like it's doing now. So the reason that they're making 5 minerals here is because there's a base of 2 minerals on this terrain tile, and we have a mining network, which adds an additional 2, and it's adjacent to the capital, which adds an additional 1.
Okay.
Now, see how the adjacency effect says +1 mineral, food, and energy?
Yes.
That adjacency effect only applies as a bonus to those resources if they are already being produced in this tile. Since there is no food or energy being produced here, this adjacency effect only boosts the mineral output. And as a general rule, your tiles are only going to produce one thing. These are all science. So this is a tile that produces purely science. This is food. This is minerals. This is energy, right? So generally that is going to be the case because you're going to build a building that, for example, even if this tile produced a mineral and a food, if we built a food building on it, like this hydroponics farm, that would cancel out the mineral and that tile would only produce food from then on. So once you build a building on a tile, it generally only produces one resource. But what's important is when you place your capital onto a planet, and we'll get to that later, you want to place it in such a way that there is native energy, food, or minerals in the orthogonal directions because it will boost those outputs. Does it make sense so far?
I understand. Yeah, everything makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
And so that brings us to our resource types. You can see at the top we have energy credits, minerals, and food. And there's a couple more here, influence and unity, and we'll get to those in a second. Energy credits are generally only used to maintain all of your buildings and stations and other things. You occasionally will pay for things in energy credits, often during trade with other nations. So they are simultaneously used as like a maintenance thing, but also as currency sometimes with other empires. But generally, you're not using this to invest in your empire. That's what minerals are for. You use minerals to build new buildings, build spaceships, build space stations, build colony ships. All of those things are built using minerals. So minerals also have a maintenance value, though. You can see on here that we have a base of 5, and then we produce an additional 8. That would be the 8 that's produced on this planet. You can see 5 here and 3 here.
All right.
And then ship maintenance costs us minus 0.41. That's not a lot, but our fleet isn't huge. And then consumer goods reduces that by a further 3.2. And so the net is a 9.8. So we had a total income of 13, and then it was subtracting about 4-ish, and that brings us down to 9. So that's our net gain every month is plus 9. So that's what this means up here. We have 200 stored, and it's plus 9 per month. Same thing with energy, except energy, you see, has a lot more maintenance involved in it. We're producing 15, and then we gain, and then we reduce that by 10, and we get about 4 left at the end of the month. So that is how all these work. Now, this tile has food. So if we were to build a building here, we could build any building we wanted, but it would be kind of a waste to build anything but food, because if we built a mining network on this, then it would cover up the food and we'd only get 2 minerals. If we build a hydroponics farm, it stacks with the food and we'd get a total of 5 food.
Right, it's a matching building for the resource in there.
Exactly.
Okay.
And sometimes you'll find a tile that has a food and a mineral, or a mineral and an energy, and you have to kind of decide, do I want to make this tile specialized for one or the other? Okay. So another thing on this planet you can see is we have these these what are called tile blockers. You always have these sprawling slums on your homeworld. So as our planet grows, there are going to be new pops. These guys are called pops, and you can move them around to different things. But when I moved them off of the energy, you see we got, oh no, negative balance on our energy, be careful. So it dynamically will let you know when things are going on. But if we were to grow 2 more pops on this planet, we'd then be maxed out. We wouldn't be able to do anything else. So we can clear anything with these yellow and black hashes. We might, and your capital will only have yellow and black. I mean, all can be cleared, but it costs resources to clear them and time. And if we come across a new planet, we might come across tile blockers that we don't yet know how to clear. There might be some crazy big volcanoes, or there might be ice sheets, or there might be hostile fauna. And the only way to clear those is to wait until you get new technology choices that allow you to clear them and build on them. So we'll find a new planet later, and it will have a bunch of these that are red, and a bunch of open spaces. So we can land and populate the open spaces, but we can't get rid of the red things until we get the right technology. So that's what these are. We're not going to spend any money on those yet because we still have 2 places to grow, right?
So the sprawling slums in some of these sectors what is the effect on the economy there?
There's no
whatever?
direct effect on the economy, but we can't grow and build a pop there or a building. We can't gather these resources until we clear the slums and let a pop grow.
When you say a pop, you mean a population?
A pop
unit?
is a shorthand for population. Each of these little guys that I can move around is called a pop.
Oh, you can move them around. Okay.
Yes, kind of like in Civilization, you can tell which tiles you want to be actually harvesting. These represent groups of people on the planet that you can say, oh, we need to research this thing, right? Okay. So that's the surface of the planet.
Okay.
You can build things by coming here and building. We're not going to do any of that just yet. The next tab over is armies. This is where you can recruit armies, defensive armies. If we look, they're damaged between 1.5 and 3. Offensive armies is more damage, more morale, more health, more of everything for these assault armies. The difference is that defense armies, by the way, also much lower maintenance. This is half as much maintenance as an offensive assault army. The difference is defensive armies cannot leave the planet you build them on. So assault armies have a much higher maintenance, but they're for conquering things or for moving from one place to another. You can look here, we start with 4 garrison armies, which are much weaker than even a defense army, but they cost us 0 maintenance. They're automatic. They're spawned based on the population on the planet. So the higher the population on the planet, the more automatic garrisons we get. That's the local populace resisting an invasion if it comes up. We also, because this is our capital, we also spawned with 5 defense armies at the very beginning of the game. We could build more if we wanted to, but a brand new colony will not have these. It will only have these garrisons. Okay. So
there's no attacking armies there. I don't see any attacking.
Right, there's no attack. We're not under attack at the moment, so we're okay.
No, I mean, we don't have any assault
we don't have any assault armies at the beginning, right? We haven't built any. And you can see it would cost us 60 versus 30 for assault armies. And the little number at the bottom means it costs 90 seconds, or 90 days, I guess, rather, 90 days to build an assault army and train it. So the last one we go to is spaceport. And the spaceport is actually, if I zoom into Sol here, you can actually see, here's our spaceport, the Earth spaceport hovering above Earth. Now, a colony doesn't have to have a spaceport, but it's good to have them because they defend your planet from invasion, to at least some degree, and they allow you to build ships from that planet. So if you colonize a new planet and you don't build a spaceport on it, it cannot build any military or civilian ships of any kind. But because we started with this is our capital spaceport. So the spaceport, by default, has this missile defense module. Because we use missiles, that's what it's got. And it has enough things on it that it has a firepower value of 1.2 thousand, which is a lot, because our starting fleet has a firepower of 89. So at the beginning of the game, this is going to defend our capital quite well. It's going to take a while before a race that's strong enough can come by that can actually siege down our capital by defeating this spaceport. So we're a little safe in our capital area at the beginning, right?
Okay. Yeah, I see. That's nice.
And here, this is showing the ships that are currently docked at this spaceport. And that's important. So just for the purposes of a demonstration, I'm going to send this guy over here. And we can see if we go back to the spaceport, it's no longer showing our little fleet of corvettes is docked here. And our energy credits for ship maintenance and our mineral credits for ship maintenance have gone up. If you have your fleet sitting around with nothing to do, always right-click on a planet with a spaceport, and they will go back. And you see right now, these guys have this. So if I give these guys an order and they just stop, they show Z's with a red symbol here on the right. That means they're just floating in space. If I send them back to Earth, they'll get this little green orbiting symbol, which means they're docked at a planet with a spaceport, and they are costing you less maintenance. It reduces maintenance by, I think, 25% when they're docked at a spaceport. Right?
Okay.
All right. So, that is what you can see. That is what a whole planet looks like, the whole infrastructure of that planet. And we have a couple other things here. We have our first fleet, which is composed of 3 corvettes. That's all we get at the beginning. And this interface is fairly similar to the EU4 interface for an army. I can press this button to split the fleet in 2. I can press this button to create a new fleet and say I want to split this guy off and this guy off, for example. And then if I want to grab them together, I can grab them together. What the hell?
Group them, yeah.
And group them. Why isn't it letting me select? There we go. Okay,
select
shift
it,
select.
select.
There we go.
Group.
And then you can either hit the G key, or you can hit the button up here to merge them back into a single group, just like that. So, and then you right-click to give them orders. I don't know why they're doing that. That's weird. Oh, there we go. It's just a bug. Okay, so we'll give them back to Earth. So that is how you maneuver your guys around, and we'll get more about exploring interstellar space in a moment. First, let's quickly go over all these resources. We talked about energy, minerals, and food is an empire-wide thing. By the way, I am playing with Utopia and with Leviathans, the two currently available expansions. For those wondering, Leviathans increases the amount of interesting things you find out in the solar system. It adds enclaves that can give you like a cultural enclave, a knowledge enclave, and a trader enclave that you can find out in the world, and you can give them energy credits, and they give you secrets of the universe and things like that. It's really cool. Then there's also space monsters come in that Leviathans pack that you can find out in the world, in the universe, like a space dragon or other crazy things that if you destroy them, you get crazy strong technologies, but they're very difficult to destroy. Or things like the enigmatic fortress. It's mysterious, and it's got a skull on it. I don't know what it does, but it blows up everything you send until you get really strong. So that's what Leviathans does. It adds cool things out in the universe. Utopia adds things internally for your empire. Things that make your internal empire management a lot more interesting, including a system called Traditions that is almost exactly like the Civilization 5 civics system, where you pay a point to adopt it, and then you go down these trees, and then when you finally get the final unlock, you get another bonus, and the cost increases per planet and per one you've already gone down. So that's basically like the culture system in Civ 5 if you've played that game, and we'll come back to this later when it becomes more relevant. So anyway, food is an empire-wide resource, and what happens is you have a policy that determines how much food you're storing in your empire. Once you hit the max, in this case 200 food, then any additional monthly gain gets converted into growing all of your colonies faster.
Okay.
So the more monthly gain you have at that point, the faster all your colonies grow, but it's not a linear thing. So if I'm at +3, if I already got 200 food and I add +3, and I only have this one tiny planet, that +3 might give me a substantial boost. It might be a 10 or 15 or 20% boost. But when I have a giant empire, +3 isn't a huge margin. It gives me a very, very tiny boost. So the amount extra surplus that you need to gain the same benefit increases in scales with the size of your empire.
Okay, so it's a percentage of the size of the empire.
Yeah, it's a ratio with the size of your empire. So a bigger empire requires a bigger surplus to get the same benefit from the surplus. Mm-hmm. But in general, all you need to know is make sure this is positive, because you don't want your people starving to death. It makes them very unhappy. Then we have influence. Influence is, you can think of as a political and diplomatic resource. You use it to enact sort of internal political things. It's like political capital, but it's also something you use in international relations sometimes when you're declaring war and doing all this other stuff. So it's kind of a dual resource there. I think it's mostly used for political capital types of things. And certain decisions would require you to spend influence in order to do it. Then there's unity. Unity is what you spend to get those traditions. So think of this like culture in Civilization 5. Okay. And you start with a base of 1, because on our home world, the planetary administration produces 1 unity. That's what it does. And you have a base of 1, so we have a total of 1.3, but with those bonuses, we also get a total of 2.6. All right, so those are all the basic resources. Now we have the science resources: physics research, society research, and engineering research. These are 3 different categories of science. Each category has its own suite of possible technologies that you can research. And we'll get to those in just a second. Strategic resources, we have none. This is the number of directly controlled systems. We'll get to more of that later. Naval capacity, this is how many... This is similar to a unit limit, like an army force limit from Europa Universalis 4. If we ever have more than 14 naval capacity, then all ships beyond that point would start incurring bonus maintenance. Not bonus maintenance, penalty maintenance. It would become more and more expensive. And when it's using naval capacity, what it means there... Oh, you're turning my volume up. Thank you.
I didn't know I was controlling your volume.
No, that's fine. You can turn it back up.
There we go.
So, the naval capacity is based on the size of the ship. Corvettes are size 1, destroyers are size 2, cruisers are size 3, and battleships are size 4. So that's what it means when it means naval capacity. It's not the number of ships, but it's also taking into account the size of the ships, right?
Okay.
All right, so that's all the things across the top of the screen. Let's look at, very briefly, the other... this, by the way, will open up your government tab. Same as clicking up here. They just make it an easy thing here. And if you right-click, you get to go to your home world automatically. So this tab has all the information about our government, including our ruler, which is currently Dolores Mwangana. And these are her traits. So we get different rulers give us different traits here. And her bonuses are science ships cost less and anomaly research is higher. So she's putting more money towards NASA, basically. And she's also charismatic, so edicts cost less and they last longer. And we'll get to what those are later. These are our governing, ethics and civics. These are the things we looked at earlier, the things that make our race unique, essentially, our faction. And this is our type of government and when the next election is. And we could reform the government if we wanted to change it into an authoritarian, whatever we could. Budget, this is just an overview of where your money's coming from, where it's going. It's kind of a more expanded version of hovering over this. And demographics, this tells us how many different pop types we have in our empire and what race they are, because you can have alien pops in your empire, either by conquering them or having them migrate over to you. And it tells you what kind of bonuses that that your base race gets and all kinds of other things here. So that's a little pop-up here. Lots of information that can be valuable throughout the game. Come back here and check it out as you're playing. Now, this is the equivalent of the shield tabs in EU4. All the other different control mechanisms. Contacts shows you all the people we've met in the universe. Right now it's 0, so we can ignore that. Situation log. Very valuable. This contains a lot of story elements, but also the new things that we know about. The only thing it contains right now is it says, hey, every time a new person is elected, they give a mandate. And the base thing that we start with is an orbital research mandate, which is if we build 4 orbital research stations, we get a small reward of influence. Because this is one of the campaign promises that our leader made upon coming to office. When I get to office, I will build you the greatest research stations in the universe. They'll be the best. You'll get so many research stations, you'll be tired of winning.
And where are these built? Are these built on the planet in those boxes, or are these built on stars or something?
Stations are built orbiting a planet or a moon or a sun or an asteroid that has research available, and we'll get to that in just a second. So technology, perfect time for technology discussion, and like all the other games, of course, it's popping up here to say, hey, you need to choose a technology to research. Now, the way this technology works is not like in civilization games. You don't have a big chart to go through. Instead, you have each of these, physics, society, and engineering. You can think of those as each has an individual deck of technology cards available. So there's a physics deck, a society deck, and an engineering deck. And when you complete a previous research, it will randomly draw 3 new cards from that deck. Now, as you get research of a particular type, it will add new cards to be researched into that deck. So the late game research is not just going to pop up right now because there are a lot of prerequisites before those cards get added to the deck of possible options. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's not really predictable which direction you're going to go. The card deck is populated as you build prerequisites for those new technologies. That's
correct. Although, if we choose right now to get a solar panel network, for example, Physics Lab and Assist Research could easily pop up again in the future. It's not guaranteed that they'll come back on the next one, but sometime in the near future they'll come back. And there's waiting to ensure that certain very important technologies will come back up. So you don't have to worry about that. However, if you ever get a purple technology, those are rare technologies. Those have waiting where they only come up very rarely. So if you don't choose them when they're available, they probably won't come back up. Maybe not in that whole game, but certainly not for quite a while. So first,
effectively, you have a limited deck all the time. As soon as you pick one, the other two are discarded and shuffled back into the deck in some way.
Yep, and they might come back up immediately, or they might come back up 10 choices down the road.
Wow, all right.
So, before we actually research, let's take a quick look at our scientists. We have Eleanor Bouchard doing physics, and we've got this guy doing science. We've got an engineering guy here, Sabu Oyana. So you always want to have a scientist here. Always want to have a scientist here because they all boost the speed at which you research. In this case, Eleanor has a spark of genius. This is one of the best traits that you can get for a science leader because she increases all research speed by 10%. This guy only researches biology at plus 10%.
Ah, right.
This is a slightly weaker version. Maniacal is all research speed by plus 5.
These guys, do they cost any maintenance for these scientists like they do in EU?
Nope.
Okay.
But when one of them dies, which they eventually will because it takes place over the course of many centuries, then you have to replace them. In order to hire a leader, you must spend influence. That's one of the things you have to spend influence on, is hiring new leaders or to replace old ones. Now, in addition to these little trait bonuses, the leader's skill gives us a bonus to research speed, 2% per skill level. So 5 is the maximum. So after your leader has been around for a while and their skill goes up, they'll get a plus 10% bonus to research skill when they get all the way at a 5 skill. So it's quite good. So she is going to research things very quickly. Let's take a look at our options here. Solar panel network is, so it says module. Module, building, and feature are 3 different things. A module is a thing that you build into these slots on a space station. So right now we don't have any options to build any support modules. We could only build one. The rest of these are locked because we cannot unlock these until we build a bigger spaceport. So we have to upgrade to level 2 will unlock this, level 3 will unlock this, etc., etc. But we can't upgrade to level 2 because we don't have the technology yet. So we only have one slot available at the moment. And what this does is it will generate plus 3 energy credits. So if you're low on energy, you could stick this into the module into all of your spaceports and increase your energy by 3 per spaceport, right? And effectively, all that does is counteract the minus 3 maintenance that your spaceport costs. It makes your spaceport cost 0 maintenance. Because a spaceport costs 3 maintenance, you build this, builds 3 maintenance, now it's a net of 0.
All right, got it.
Probably not something we care about right now because we're doing fine on energy and we haven't even seen what's around in the local universe yet. Now, physics lab. So if we go back to Earth, you see we did have a basic science building built here. So let's take a look at this tile. The base tile, before we built any buildings on it, had engineering of 1. Then they built a basic science lab. Now the basic science lab has all 3 of these on it, which means it can work on any of these science tiles. So you just build a basic science lab wherever there's science. And it's now giving us 1 physics research, 1 society, and 2 engineering, because there was a base engineering plus the 1 on the building, right?
So it gives them to you on top of what's there.
Right. Whenever you build a building that generates a resource, it stacks with any existing resources of that type. So this will always stack with any types of science. But you can upgrade a basic science lab to specialize somewhere. So this gives you 1, 1, 1. We can instead get a physics lab as an upgrade that gives us 2, 1, 1. The reason that this would be valuable is because when we go out into searching the space, we might find a bunch of really cool asteroids and stuff that would allow us to study them to get engineering and society research. But we're just not finding a lot of physics research out in the universe. And in that case, we could then upgrade our labs to make up for that. So we're doing a lot more physics research on our planets using these buildings to make up for the fact that we couldn't find a lot in space. And the last... Go ahead.
No, I understand. Go ahead. You please go ahead.
Okay, so the last option here is assist research. Our science ships generally will be out in the universe exploring and analyzing the stuff that we find. But at some point in the game, you might run out of things to find. And in that case, you can go for this research, which allows your science ships to orbit a planet and boost the science output of that planet. That's pretty much all it does. Now, at this point, we have a lot of stuff for our science ships to do. This does not make sense. We can get this way later. Don't care about it. Solar panel, we don't need it. We got plenty of energy. We don't even know what's out there yet. Could be a ton of energy out there. So we're going to grab physics lab just as a nice future-proofing situation here. So let's see what we get for society research. We can boost our naval capacity by 10%. And that's pretty valuable. Once we do this, then the next version of the naval capacity boost is available, and we could do it again. It's like a repeatable technology. This one will come up a bunch, usually. Heritage sites. This is a building. Oh, by the way, what I had mentioned earlier. So module is built on a space station. Building is built on a planet. And feature is a thing that is like a passive bonus that is now available to you. It's a new ability that your empire gets. Right? That's what I was talking about before. Okay. And then we got naval capacity is basically a feature. This just boosts it's an empire modifier. It's a passive boost. We don't have to do anything special. Once we research it, it's done. Here's a building that produces 4 unity and costs 2 maintenance. And you can only build 1 per planet. That's why it says planet unique. Well, that could be pretty valuable, but anything you cover up with this would no longer be useful. So all of our planets on our home planet have something. Now, you can find tiles with nothing there, and in that case, you could build any building there, including that Unity building, and that would probably be a good place to do it. And then we have growth time minus 10%. Now, this one's probably pretty good early on, because we're about to start expanding and colonizing, and when colonized, you start with only 1 pop on a planet, so we want to grow them faster. That seems like the right thing to do. We're not in a war. We don't even know where there's enemies around us, so naval capacity is not super useful. We can wait and get that later. Heritage site is okay, but there's no place that we really want to build it now, so we'll probably just take genome mapping to get our growth time so we can grow faster on our planets. There's one other thing here. Of course, we've got the types. By the way, this guy, good at technology. Hey, look, here, I'm sorry, biology. Here's a biology technology, so he's going to research this faster. In addition, you got a little icon here, biological path. This indicates, hey, if you take this, the next card in this series is going to get slotted into your society research. So this unlocks new technology options for us when we complete it, which is great. And you can see that bumped up to plus 12% from plus 2 because we chose one that matched his type.
So what is our current naval capacity right now?
It is 14.
Know, it's quite militaristic.
14
that's right.
up here. We have 3 of 14. Since we only know how to build corvettes, we could build up to 14 corvettes.
And another 10% would only give us another 1.5.
But that naval capacity is a base of 10. Every spaceport level gives us a bit of extra naval capacity, and every X number of pops gives us more naval capacity. So as our empire expands, that 10% is going to be impacting a much larger base number.
So later on, it's going to make more difference.
Right. Right now, it's only going to give us 1.4 extra naval capacity, but in the future, we might have a base of 50, so it would give us an extra 5, or a base of 100, so it would give us an extra 10. All right, so let's take a look at our engineering. Engineering is often where you get ship components that you can use to build better ships. Now, this would also give us an engineering facility. That's like the same building as the physics lab, but it boosts engineering instead. And when you upgrade a basic science, you have to choose which one are you going to build in that tile. You're going to build an engineering one in one tile and a physics lab in the other, or are you going to build a physics lab in both, etc. Now, it's not super useful. Like I said, we only got physics lab because the others weren't great. We might need an engineering facility. We don't know yet. We haven't gone and explored the galaxy. Ion thruster. A component is a thing that you add to a ship. So you can see here, this is a component, and what it does is it increases the speed of your ships in both sublight and in combat. Combat, they move slower than normal, but this is, and they're distinct from each other. It also increases your evasion chance, so your dodge chance, essentially, of your ships to avoid incoming fire. So that's pretty nice. It's pretty valuable. It does use more power on your ship than the standard thruster. So that's the trade-off. It costs a little more when you put this on a ship to build that ship, and the power cost is higher. So you maybe will have less power for shields or weapons.
Is it a little early for that? I don't know how soon. How long does it take to meet some new
You're right. It's a little
here?
Early for this. I would say, however, mining network is super valuable in the beginning of the game. We have mining network 1 as a building, which has a maintenance cost of 1 and produces 2 minerals on our planet. That's the building that we have on Earth. We have a mining network 1 right here.
Yeah.
But we can now, once we finish this research, upgrade that building to add an extra 0.5 maintenance, but produce an extra mineral. It also increases our maximum mineral storage by another 1,000. So right now we can store 5,000 minerals at a time. This will change it up to, because of geothermal fracking. So I would recommend this one. I think you were right to point out the ion thruster is just not useful at the moment. Okay, so we've chosen our research. Now we can get into the actual real game part of this. And then we'll go over all these other ones.
Wow.
Look out.
Okay.
Some of these are pretty quick. Strategic resources, just an overview, etc., etc. So we'll get to those. But anyway, first thing we need to do is we need to explore what's going on in our solar system here. We need to see what's going on. So we click our science ship here on the right. And you can right-click on the sun, and then choose. You can individually say, I want to survey, Mercury. Right-click on Mercury and say survey, and then I could right-click on Venus while holding Shift and say survey. Now I've given them a little waypoint, and then I could right-click on etc., etc. Right?
So we don't really know enough about our own planets.
Right. We need to send our science out. Now here I've got a couple of waypoints set up. This guy's going to go to Mercury, research, then go to Venus. And I did that by holding Shift while I gave the orders. That adds a waypoint to the end of your order chain.
Hold Shift. Okay.
Hold
Shift.
So you hold Shift while you're giving an order. We'll add it to the end of the order queue.
Okay.
If you hold Control and Shift while giving an order, it adds it to the front of the order queue while preserving the rest of the orders.
Wow. Okay.
That is a really useful thing if, like, you give your science ship a whole bunch of orders and then you find something really, like, oh man, I need to send them to go and examine this.
Right. Change all of a sudden you bypass the.
Yeah, you don't want to give them a new order and then do the whole chain again. Yeah. That would be very, very frustrating. So you hold Control and Shift while you give an order. It puts it at the top of the queue while preserving the rest of the queue. But
all right.
At the beginning of the game, you just click on your sun and you click Survey System. Boom. It chooses the shortest path between all of the things, and you're done. Right? Then if we hit E to zoom out a little bit. And we can hold Shift and right-click on this star here and click Survey System. And we've now added all of those. You can see now he's got 24 orders. So he's surveying all the planets in the solar system. Then he's going to go and survey all the planets in Bernard's star. If I hold Shift and click on Alpha Centauri and Survey System, now he's going to add that to his queue. So now he's got 34 orders. So I've just queued up a whole bunch of orders for our science guy, right? I'm actually going to reset that just for surveying the Earth system to start with.
Right.
And now,
so that's the science ship, right?
That's our science ship. Now, when I clicked on the science ship, we had a couple of things show up here. You see?
Yeah, what is that? Okay.
The outside, that sort of orangey circle here, is the maximum range that our ship can travel with their warp drive. So if you see, I click on this and say move here, he's going to have to travel to another star first, then go all the way over there because it's outside of his range. Right? They have warp travel in the kind that you see on Star Trek. So they just create a warp bubble around themselves and they travel to a star, but they have a maximum range they can go before they have to reach another star. That means
and then somehow they recharge their warp.
Yeah, they have to stop in normal space and recharge. Now, that doesn't matter much in a galaxy that looks like this, but if you had a galaxy that's like a spiral arm galaxy, there's big gaps between the arms, and if your range isn't long enough, you can't travel between those arms.
So you wind up with civilizations in the arms of the galaxy.
So we will.
What is this? A global cluster?
This is I think called an elliptical galaxy. When you make the game, you get to choose. So I actually like the spiral arms for that reason. It adds a little bit more interesting sort of terrain, right? There's no real terrain here. It's all just stars in this big cluster. But I like having some gaps of stars because I play with a spiral galaxy sometimes. So anyway, science ship is going to survey. So what is this green thing here? Well, the green one is the sensor range of the currently selected ship. So if any other ships were to pass within this circle, we would see them show up briefly. And you can get technology bonuses that increase both your maximum warp distance and your maximum sensor range over time.
Do the Corvettes also have a sensor range as well?
All the ships have a sensor range, and that is actually based on the type of sensor that you have installed on the ship which is here. We have basic ship-mounted sensors. It gives us a range of 20. And we'll come back to this bit later when it's more relevant. So, because we know so little, if we send out our little Corvette fleet, and it's not the second fleet, this is Mark's... How do you spell Marauder? Marauders?
Marauders. That looks good.
No, I think it's an E. Marauders?
It's an A. It's an A.
Damn. Well, there we go. Shows how much I know.
Well, we'll
to
just...
spell. There you go.
Yeah,
Mark's Marauders. And so we can send these guys out to a star system we don't know. And they'll bring back basic data. They won't tell us, like, what kind of resources are there, but they can tell us, hey, there's a tropical planet here, or there's a barren planet here. So I'm just going to do a little path here to have them go around. Now, I don't have to go to every single star, because if the sensor range simply goes over the star, they can tell the basic information. So I'm just going to send them out.
How does the information get back? Is it automatic?
It's automatic. It's instantaneous. All right. And our construction ship can't do anything yet, so I'm just going to unpause it, and we'll talk about things as they happen. We're going to watch everything play out. So
what is there, a turn button or something?
There is. It's a pause button up here, and it's a real-time thing, so there's multiple speeds. So you've got super slow. Okay. That's like speed 1. Then you've got speed 2. Speed 3 is normal speed. Speed 4 is fast. Speed 5 is fastest.
All right. Similar to
Yep, just like EU4 or the other game. So you can see our science ship is heading out right here, and he's going to scan the sun, try to find out what's going on there.
We'll get to the sun, and then he'll send some data.
Yep, he's surveying it right now, 96% done. Now, he didn't find anything. Nothing popped up here, so he didn't find anything special about the sun. It's random chance. Okay, hold on. Whoa, hold on. Encounter in Dwumgar. Now, I think that's our Mark's Marauders. You can see they're in Dwumgar, but you can click on this to go to it. Q is also the hotkey when you have one of these up and you see this and you want, where is it? Move the camera to Dwumgar. So now we can move this out of the way. And we can see, hey, here's our little fleet. They showed up here where I gave them an order to go check this out. And we found something. We found something. What is this? What are these things? An alien vessel of unknown capabilities. We don't know.
What's that 727 number refer to? Is that their attack value?
Yeah, you remember how we have 89? We just scanned these things and say, wow, their power is off the charts. We can't take these things on. And the little pips under here suggest that there are 2 cruiser-level ships and 8 Corvette-level ships in this fleet. We have 3 Corvette-level ships. That's why the power disparity is there. So we do not want to fight these guys. We also don't know anything about them. Question mark? We don't know.
So, wow, is there a diplomacy time? Or
well, potentially. So this is just a little flavor saying, oh my god, we finally encountered fellow wanderers among the stars. Nothing happens. This one, however, is telling us, hey, encounter in Dwumgar. And these strange objects have been flagged as trappers until we can learn more about them. That's just their code name. And
all right.
When we go to the special
we don't know anything about the trappers.
Right, but we can research it from afar.
How do we do that?
So you go to the situation log, and you can see here we have investigate trappers is available. This is like a little quest log or research options that are available. And it'll cost 60 society research. That is going to interrupt our progress towards genome mapping, because this guy is going to... Wait, no! Genome mapping's not important! We found aliens! Like, come over here, take your whole department, study this, right?
So right now, 51 months remaining, so we've gone through 9 months, is that right?
No, 3... Well, no, not necessarily.
Almost 4 months?
We've been through almost 3 months. Almost 4 months, yes.
Well, there's a star date up there, 2200.03.21.
Right, so this is March 21st of 2200, and we started at January 1st. So we're going to pause our genome mapping so that we can research this. So we go in here, we press research, and it says it'll finish in 9 months because of the rate at which we're generating society research, right? We're generating at 6 per month, and we need a total of 60, so we actually need 10 months. But I think some of it is going to carry over. It's going to take this month's gains and carry it over, so 9 months after this month ends, basically, is what it's trying to say here. So if we go back here, you can see this is stopped. It's busy with special project.
Oh, we're busy with I see it, yes.
Because this is the society guy, and we had to take, okay, this is going to cost 60 society research, So we had to interrupt our society research to investigate these aliens.
Maybe these aliens will do something in the next 9 months. What do you think?
Maybe. We got to worry about that. Now, alien races, alien factions of the other empires of the universe that we'll go out and meet, they will get the same option with regards to us. And maybe they translate our language faster than we translate theirs, and then they will contact us ahead of time. Or if we research this project, then we could contact them. Right? Or neither of us researches it and we just go, they're aliens, come blast them out of the sky. I'm not going to spend my valuable research time on that. But usually you want to research just so you know what you're dealing with, to get more information about what these things are, right?
All right.
In addition, just completing this will give us influence or a special project. So we get some other rewards by researching what's going on with these aliens.
Makes sense. All right.
Now, these guys are still on their path, but this is a good time to talk about the stances of the ships. Let's start with the science ship. The stance is the furthest right option here. The other options are actually all buttons to do things that I don't ever use these buttons. You could use them and like survey and then click the thing you want to survey. I just right-clicked interface everything. Right-click survey, right-click move here, right-click research this.
Okay.
But
so these are alternative icons.
These are alternative icons. You could click on these and then give the order, but I don't like doing that. But fleet stance is different. This is either evasive, passive, for civilian ships. Those are the only two options. Evasive means if they ever are in a star system with hostile enemies, they run the hell away and they continue their queue somewhere else.
Now in Dwumgar, are we considering these hostile?
They are red,
time?
so at this time they're considered hostile. And that might change.
Yeah, why do we have two icons there? We have a green one and a red one.
Green represents our fleet, and you can hover over and see this is Mark's Marauders. And the red represents that alien vessels that we saw there. And you can see that Mark's Marauders' range is actually a lot smaller circle than what we saw before, because this sensor range is actually the range of our spaceport, of our planet. It's got much stronger sensor technology than our ships do, which might change over time. So anyway, and you see I've got the science ship selected. I can travel here. I can't travel here. My civilian ships will not travel to any system that has hostiles in it. And it will never travel to a system where the last thing we knew, there were hostiles there. So if we wait and watch for a moment, our fleet here is going to be warping out of the system. Here we are. So right now they're charging up. They're winding down from their original warp. They're about to warp out. Here they go. They're traveling now. And now, there's this little red exclamation point. That means the last time we knew, there were hostiles here. We don't have any current sensors here, and if you hover over it, it tells you what the last thing we saw was. Alien vessels that we don't know what they were, and they're 727 strength. So because of that...
It looks like when we're warping, there's no sensor range.
Right, when they come out of warp, they'll get their sensor range back. But our science ship will still refuse to go there because they still don't know. The last thing we knew, there were aliens there. We're not going, right? They were hostiles.
And how was it decided that they were hostile? Simply because we don't know anything, so it's cautionarily...
I think so. I mean, certain things will show up as not hostile at the beginning.
Oh, really?
They'll show up as yellow, which is like, could be hostiles if you attack them. Definitely not allies.
Okay.
Okay, so we can let it go a little further. They're going to get their range back. But it's still not far enough to show us what's in this one here. But these things are all getting names now. You see that?
Valkyrie's Maw, right?
Yeah.
Viscarion's Maw.
And this, because it's in sensor range, the intel level is high. If we hover over this one, it says intel level is low because we haven't surveyed any of the planets or anything. Okay.
Okay, so question about the Dwumgar aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Are these definitely another faction, or are these just maybe a minor faction?
They might be a minor faction or space animals.
Space animals?
Not really sentient. Those exist.
They didn't look like animals to me, but okay. I see
we'll find out. There's a bunch of different animal options as well.
Okay.
I mean, I know exactly what they are because I know what they look like and I've played the game before, but I'm going to leave the suspense. We'll find out when this project completes in 5 months. Okay, here we go. We got a new thing. So, our science ship, I'm going to hit Q again to go directly to what's going on. Our science ship, while analyzing Mars, has found an anomaly. This barren and lifeless world is showing signs of once having supported a biosphere. Now, it's saying the anomaly level is 1, and our skill is 1, so the failure risk is 0. There's no risk of failure with an anomaly level 1. So we're definitely going to research this. But if you came and found a high-level anomaly and your skill of your scientist is low, there's a high chance of failure, which could mean as much as the destruction of your science ship and the death of your scientist.
And this Sylvia Brinkman, is she on the ship, or is...
Correct. If we click on the scientist, you can see...
So she's like our Mr. Spock on this ship.
Yep, she's the scientist on the science ship. Yep. And so in this case, it makes no sense not to research anomalies. There can only be a good result. If you have a failure risk %, that failure risk could be a no result, meaning you didn't find the good thing you could have found, or it could be as catastrophic as you lose the whole ship and you lose a scientist, which for a high-level scientist is very bad, because you need those high-level scientists to research the high-level anomalies safely. So if you come across a high-level one and your scientist is too low, you might be like, leave this be for now. We'll come back later when our scientists had more experience with the universe, right? But right now, we'll click research. By doing this, it will automatically put researching this anomaly at the front of her queue. She's got 12 orders, and her order is currently go to Juno. If I hit research, boom. It's now go to Mars, do the anomaly, then go to Juno.
So you had to control shift.
Nope.
That.
When I click on, when this pops up, and you click on
gotcha.
research, it automatically puts it at the top of the queue. So when you see this anomaly pop up, if you immediately want them to do it, because they're already there, they were there when they found it, you can tell them to do it.
It's not a movement
It's
thing.
not,
okay.
yeah, they don't
And
have to
it
move
says
anywhere.
you can change the scientist. How is that possible? Is there more than one scientist on the ship?
I can't change it right now, but you could change the scientist for one of the other leaders that you have available. We have a total of 4 scientists. This one is leading the UNS Lagrange. That's the ship, the science ship. And these guys are actually doing the research in our research divisions. The other one. Right? Those are the 4 scientists.
We don't have a scientist on the Corvettes. Okay.
No, we have an admiral is what we would put on the Corvettes, because they are military. That's good. Let's go over the leaders. Governors are on planets, and they provide bonuses to the planet's output and lowers unrest, etc. Scientists are the science in the technology window and on science ships. Admirals will command your fleets, and generals will command your army units. Those guys that we looked at the beginning, like those, but they would be basically commanding the offensive guys generally. You would take these guys together and build a general.
If you build some offensive guys, they would also add to the defense if they were sitting on the planet.
Absolutely.
Right?
And they would be stronger in general, but cost more maintenance than the defense armies.
So you could have some elite armies helping you defend.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, so let's unpause this and let the scientist... So you can see now the scientist is investigating Mars. And it's getting very... Oh, Jesus, very slow. 0%. Oh, it's... Come on. Let's go faster. There it is. 2%, 4%. Okay, they had to go over to Mars. And now, look at they got the beam. They're beaming down. Getting the information. Scanning.
Scanning with the...
ancient signs of life. 60%. I can make
quite
this
interesting, this is. Of course, other stuff could be going on around the universe. We might be too fascinated with this, I suppose.
Well, no, stuff will pop up whenever anything happens anywhere else. Just like we found aliens. Hey, there's a big pop-up to tell you we found aliens.
So it'll pause it and pop it up.
Yep. Okay. So here's what we found. A terraforming candidate discovered, and actually every single time I've played in the Sol system as a starting system, Mars is always a terraforming candidate. It's like a scripted thing. It always happens. So our detailed survey of Mars has revealed that it may once have supported life, and it's a terraforming candidate, so when we get the terraforming technology, we might consider terraforming Mars and making it into a livable world. Cool. So then the effect is Mars becomes a terraforming candidate. So if we click on Mars, you can see, hey, terraforming candidate has been added. Right now it's a barren world with 0.
We go to the next planet.
Yes. And you can see the gray...
That's an asteroid.
Yeah, the gray word here over Venus means we have not yet investigated Venus at all. We have not investigated Jupiter, Io, Ganymede, Europa.
But Mars has been investigated.
But Mars and Mercury have been investigated, so there's nothing there. In addition, we just investigated Juno, and we found something. We found minerals on Juno. So we can take our construction ship, right-click on Juno, and build a mining station. That maintenance cost of 1 energy credit per month, but it will generate 2 minerals per month.
I saw something that said 90. What did that refer
90
to?
days to construct
90
the
days
station.
to make it. Okay.
Yep, that's what, if I
So
do
this
that
construction ship, what capacities does it have? Is that the skills that it can
again. It can
build over there?
space stations, not a space port like we have hovering over Earth, but it can build mining stations that will mine either minerals or energy, and it can build research stations. So if you find a really unusual asteroid that might have some physics or engineering research on it, then you can do that. So yes, you did see... 90 was the cost. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm looking at the UNS
90
Sahara construction ship, and it's got all these icons there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. These are, yes, build a frontier outpost, build a mining station, build a research station, build an observation post. Here's the fleet stance, which you didn't finish talking about. So it can also build a military station or a mega structure. But that's much later. So we talked about briefly about fleet stance, but let's finish it. So evasive means that your civilian ships will run the hell away whenever they find enemies. Passive means even if you see an enemy in the same thing, just keep going, keep doing what you're doing. It's dangerous to switch to passive because they won't run away from hostiles. But your military ships have another couple of options. They have passive, which means they won't engage or run away. They won't directly go and confront nor run away from hostile ships. Then you've got aggressive, which is if there are hostiles in your sector, you will go after them, period. And then evasive, and then passive. So those are the three. And this is just the same thing. Click this, then attack the target. No, just right-click the target. And this is their stance for ground support. We'll go over that if we have to invade somebody. So let's start ticking time so we get to more interesting stuff happening. So we see our construction ship is going over to Juno. He's going to construct a mining station there. Now, that is going to lower our energy credits. Because the mining station costs maintenance. If you get too unbalanced, if you get a ton of mineral and science stations, but you can't find enough power, energy credit generating stations, which generally come from gas giants and stars, by the way. Hey, there we go. Saturn is worth 3 energy credits. Awesome. So let's queue that up. So we click our construction ship.
Because you're going to mine some hydrogen or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Space amoebas.
Space amoebas! We just finished our special project. The entities encountered earlier are new wondrous forms of space-borne life, quickly nicknamed the space amoeba. Following an analyst's gross misreading of the initial sensor output, the creature is in fact larger than the average human corvette. We should leave it be and remotely monitor the creature and its kin from Earth. So here you have an option. Mark, what do you want to do? We should issue a special project to remotely study them, or we can attack them and make short work of them. And if we do so, we get some probably cool technology from blowing them apart and studying them.
Well, as I recall, our power compared to the estimated power of these animals was not very good. We don't have enough ships.
You recall correctly.
Okay. So, but the thing that I'm curious about is that you had space amoebas, but then they had some larger squid-like looking ships.
Yeah. That's
a different level of.
They had cruiser. They had 2 cruiser little mothership things, and they had a bunch of little tiny like weird sperm looking ships. So yeah, that's bizarre. But
I think we better do a special project.
Study them from remotely. There we go.
Situation log updated.
So we go back to the situation log. We can see now if we want to devote more time away from our society research, it will finish in 15 months. We're waiting for our growth time to go up. Maybe we wait until genome mapping is done. Then we'll come back and do the special project. What do you think?
So I agree. Well, I'm just worried about these things floating around and coming into our systems. How dangerous is that?
That's a good question. I think from my knowledge, I'll just intervene here and say they probably won't come into our system.
Okay, they probably just hang out in that area.
Yeah, they're not aggressive. They're not that aggressive.
They probably don't have warp drive or anything like that, do they? How are they going to?
I don't think I've seen them move from star to star, but they won't leave. Yeah, if we want to do anything in that star system, we'll have to deal with them, basically.
Are we unique in having warp drive? Is there other propulsion systems out there?
There are 3 different types. There's warp drive, which just lets you go from any star to any star as long as it's within the range of your warp drive. And then there is hyperdrive, hyperlane travel, which is like, there is a specific set of hyperlanes that you have to travel to. And
hyperlanes.
Yeah, you have to follow the hyperlane network. We can't see the hyperlane network here because we don't have that technology. But if we started with that technology, we'd be able to see it. And then there's warp gate technology, which has a much larger radius than warp drive, but requires you to build physical gates to travel. So if you wanted to travel from here to Alpha Centauri and you had a gate in the Sol system, that's great. But if you were in Sirius and you wanted to travel to Alpha Centauri, you'd first have to beam back to the gate on Earth and then go to the Alpha Centauri one. So
are there wormhole gates as well here?
That's
and there?
kind of what it. Well, no, not as such. That's
No,
kind of what the
you have to
hyperlane is. It's
construct
using
it. You have to construct it.
existing wormholes, and then
I see.
gates you
Right.
have to construct yourself. All right. Anyway, so we did find something when we sent our Corvettes around. They actually were able to see, and you can see this little thing on the left here. Oh, what's this? It's green. There's a potentially habitable world in Alpha Centauri of size 18.
Wow.
We don't know anything else about it other than it's a continental world. So that's great. And if we actually zoom in here, we can see it. Hey, look, Alpha Centauri 1 has this stuff, but it's not been surveyed yet.
World,
So
right.
we don't know anything
that
about it.
symbol's continental.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
Like
the symbol is potentially habitable planet, meaning it's one of the 9 types. It's not a barren, it's not a gas giant, it's not a toxic world. It's one of the 9 basic types that is habitable to some race. And then it's green because it's our perfect world. It's continental, which is our homeworld type. It would be, I think, yellow if it was in our climate type. So if it was a tropical or ocean, it would show up as yellow, which is still pretty habitable, but not good. And then if it is one of the other 2 types of climate, it would show up as red. So hey, here's a potentially habitable world, just not to us. Because it'd be an Arctic world or a tundra world or something like that we're not adapted to. That make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say this whole system, once you understand it, so much nicer than the old Master of Orion look at things, isn't it? I mean, it's
so we have our science ship has a few more orders to research what's going on in the Sol system, and then I'm going to hold shift and say survey the Alpha Centauri system next. That way we can maybe go and colonize that planet. You can't colonize a planet until you have surveyed it and you know more about it. And it would be a bad idea because maybe that planet has weird hostile fauna that you don't want to go on unless certain situations. Now, another thing you can see on this solar system map out here is underneath Sol, there are 3 icons. Those, because they are white, meaning there are space stations we can build that could harvest these resources, but they are not currently built.
Okay.
So if we zoom back into our construction ship, by the way, you can select ships with left click on the right outliner here. If you right click on a ship or a place, it will zoom in to that ship. So if I'm out here and I'm over here, if I right click on science ship, it'll center it. Then I right click again, it'll zoom into the science ship. So that's kind of a nice fast thing. So actually these guys didn't actually get started in building their mining station because I was showing something. And then I'm going to say, hey, to make up for that mining station that you're building, I'm going to hold shift and say definitely build a mining station on Saturn so we get these energy credits.
So boom, boom.
And then
as soon as it's done, it'll flash up and say, okay, I'm done. What's next?
Yep, it'll show up here as a construction ship, idle, not me doing anything. And then
now, you're going to build a colony ship now because we have a possibly inhabited system?
Not yet, because we don't yet know what's there. We have to send our science ship over first. Then Titan actually has some engineering research to be done. So I can hold down shift and build a research station around Titan. So that is how you extract resources from planets which you're not actually able to colonize. And asteroids and moons and other things. Like suns even can sometimes have science or energy on them. A new faction has been founded. Factions are founded when your population gets to a certain size. So that means that Earth, actually it just happens after a certain amount of time, I guess. And this, I didn't show this earlier because we were at a pause at the very beginning of the game, but you can see, hey, look, here's a brand new pop growing ever so slowly.
Oh, I see it.
And you hover over the blue bar here. You can tell that it's a brand new pop that hasn't grown yet because it's blue. Blue means growing. Green means happy. And yellow means not too happy, not unhappy. And red would mean unhappy, right?
Why are those guys not happy?
Because they're average. They're yellow. They're normal. They're not happy, but they're not unhappy either. And that's how the default is. Everybody starts at 50 is the base. However,
why is
these
the green
guys,
girl up the top
why
happy?
Is she all kinds of happy? Let's find out. That has to do with the factions. So we didn't look at this too much earlier, but the pop here, we were looking mostly at the buildings and at the terrain. But each pop has a particular ethic that is applied to it. This guy's ethic is egalitarian. So at the beginning of the game, each of your pops has an ethic that is based on your starting government type. We had xenophile egalitarians, right? So this guy is xenophile, this guy's egalitarian, etc., etc. There's xenophiles and egalitarians. That's all we start with. If you started as a militarist authoritarian empire, your entire starting planet would be militarist authoritarian. They don't necessarily stay that way. Your pops will drift over time based on how you run your government. If you start a whole bunch of wars, you'll get more militant pops. If you try to avoid wars, you might get more pacifist pops. If you try to if you set policies that include all the various races, then you will essentially get more egalitarian pops. If you get ones that, if you purge if you purge aliens out of your empire by like killing them, then you'll get more xenophobic pops. So in order to explain this and how factions work, we're going to come back to this in just a second, but I'm going to save the game, and we're going to show you what it looks like to build a custom race. So we'll do that right. All right, so we're briefly going to take a detour from that game to create a new faction from scratch, create a new empire. And we can start with appearance, and we can choose a bunch of different things. These are humanoids. We have mammalian style. We can have this guy kind of look like a weird donkey thing, whatever, or a fungoid if you want to go really weird and creepy. What do you think, Mark? What do you like? Reptilian, avian, arthropod?
Let's stick with something avian, so that I don't get too freaked out.
How about this guy, Toucan Sam here?
I like that one. Yeah, that's
next,
pretty good.
We can pick the name, let's randomize it. Sibulians. There we go.
Okay.
And next, we get to choose from the name list. When it creates ships and planets and leaders, it will come up with names for you automatically, which you can change. But we can go with, let's see. We have an avian option here. Plantoid, reptilian. There we go. Avian 2. Weird avian 1 is like Cremac, Rebic, sure, whatever. Oh, and you can pick in a prefix, so you could have your ships be the ISS blank or the USS whatever. Okay, racial traits. You can pick up to 5 of these, but you start with only a +2 of trait points. So the things with red numbers are beneficial traits that cost points to pick. So we could make our birds very agrarian. They produce +15% food. But now we've used up all of our bonus trait points. If we want to pick any more traits, we first have to pick bad traits that give us points back. So our birds are non-adaptive. Their habitability -10%. But that gave us 2 points that we could then spend somewhere else, because our birds are also talented and quick learners. They got leaders start with +1 skill, and the leader experience gain faster. So now we've customized our race a little bit here.
Can this be randomized, or you have to actually pick stuff?
You have to pick stuff. I mean, it's fairly simple. If you just wanted to make them agrarian, boom, they're agrarian, and you can keep going. Or you can keep picking until you have a total of 5 over here, as long as it balances out to at least 0. You can't have negative numbers here. So I can't go, all right, no, I've got 2 points left, but I'm going to spend it on like a 4 here. I can't, this is a no good. We are at -2. We can't do it.
Right.
So this is venerable, by the way. That leader lifespan of +75. It means your leaders are your skill 5 leaders stick around for a really long time. That's a fantastic trait. We're going to ignore that. We're just going to go with whatever.
Okay, yeah. So you have all these different interesting.
Yeah, we could do enduring, leader lifespan +15, and then we could do one of those talented ones, right? What are they? Quick learners. So our leaders stick around for longer and they learn faster. However, we're not very adaptive, but we are very agrarian, so we grow quickly where we are adapted to. All right, there we go. We got traits. And you can see traits is white. If I do this, when I did the like super enduring thing, it was red, saying, "Oh, you made a mistake here. You have to have less trait points." Anyway, now we can choose the starting ruler. We can choose what it looks like, right? We can change the color. We can change the clothes. We can change the room in the background.
Can you change the gender? What's the difference?
You can change the gender, but it only affects certain types. Like the humanoids have different genders, but the birds are the same. Okay. Then generate a random name. The ruler title is King Baraki. Boom, done. Now here is the different climates I was telling you about. So we can start with an ocean world, but that keeps us in the wet climate. So that would mean continental and tropical. We're still part of our, so 80% habitability on all oceans. And then 60 on the other two. Frozen and dry.
That makes sense for agrarian. Excuse me.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If you're agrarian,
Absolutely.
Would matter. Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't matter.
Agrarian means to me, I guess they could have hydroponics or something.
Yeah, or they could just cultivate plants which are suitable to frozen worlds.
Marshes,
lichens and stuff.
I see.
Right?
So picking this doesn't affect your trait.
Nope. This is only what is most habitable to you in the universe. And all 9 of these are equally spread across the galaxy. Not equally, but they're relatively equally spread across the galaxy. So it's not like, oh, there's never any desert worlds. No, there's an equal proportion-ish spread across the galaxy. Slightly random, might be a little more, might be a little less, but generally about equal. So we can pick whatever. What do you think our birds should be settled on? A nice savanna world?
Well, they look semi-ostrich-like, so Savannah sounds good.
There we go. We pick a random Sidnor, random solar system, or you could do the Sol system for any species you want, or you can be the Deneb system, or you just do random. Whatever, random. It's fine.
Yeah, random's fine.
We can pick a avian-looking city here in the background, or we can pick whatever. We'll just pick an avian, stick with the avian theme.
Oh, I think we ought to, yeah.
And this is why we came here, because this shows the ethics circle. Okay?
Wow. Okay.
These opposites, things like egalitarian is opposite of authoritarian. Militarist is opposite of pacifist. Materialist is opposite of spiritualist. So if I choose materialist as one of the ethics that my race is of, I cannot choose spiritualist. It's like opposite.
Okay.
See, it auto-unclicks the other side. But I can have spiritualist militarist egalitarians.
Right. Yeah, let's be like that. Yeah, we'll be like the Sikh religion here, sort of.
Right. Or we could have fanatic spiritualist. Now, I actually don't have any points left. I could have fanatic spiritualist militarists. Or spiritualist fanatic militarists. Now, these all do different things. Militarist increases your army damage and fire rate. Fanatic just doubles that bonus. And spiritualist reduces unrest and increases governing ethics attraction. So it keeps pops from wandering away from what your current government is. If your government is an authoritative dictatorship, it will help keep pops with that authoritative dictatorship from switching over to egalitarian and giving you trouble. Because when your pops switch to something that you're not, that is different from your governing type, they create factions that have reduced happiness. Because people who want a democracy but living under an authoritarian dictatorship, they're not going to be happy, right? So spiritualist makes it easier to keep your people in line with religion, right? You use religion to say, hey, stick with the government, the religion says so. God says that you should be, militarist or pacifist or whatever.
Right, so you can sort of justify your happiness because you're in line with the... Right.
And then authoritarian allows you to resettle your pops around from planet to planet for a lower cost, and slaves are automatically enabled, and there's less unrest from them with authoritarian setups. Xenophiles are trust with other empires grows faster. So when you're a xenophile, it's easier to build alliances with other empires because they trust you more. And when you try to do any kind of action that uses influence in diplomacy, it costs less. So it's easier for you to make alliances and federations and things like that when you're xenophiles. You can also see it says it has some restrictions on these. Like you cannot use the full native interference policy, cannot use the no refugees policy. If you're xenophiles, you have to let other refugees from other races come in.
Ah, right. Right.
And but you can eventually switch your government away from xenophilia, and you could say, no, we're xenophobic now. It takes a lot to do it, but you can do it, and that would change up the policies you can use. And also just being xenophile makes your other species like you more. And when you're fanatic xenophile, you have to always give all aliens full citizenship. You can't even deny them partial citizenship or anything like that. So you can see how these choices can change the way that you're going to play. Pacifists can't use unrestricted wars. They can only fight defensive or reconquest wars. But they get monthly unity of plus 20%, and they get more core systems that they can control directly. Materialists get bonuses to their research, and their robots cost less. Egalitarians, those are what we are, can't use autocratic government forms, and they allow utopian living standards. And also their faction influence gain is faster, and their consumers demand less goods, because it's like a communal kind of thing.
Okay.
Like a post-scarcity type society. Xenophobes have increased border range automatically, and they increase influence from rivalries faster, so you can gain that influence resource faster. So yeah, you can see all the different things that you can do here, and how they are opposites of each other. And so if we are militarist and we come up against a pacifist, then generally we're going to have a harder time dealing with that race.
So, have you ever found it problematic to be a pacifistic race?
I haven't actually played a pacifistic race. I've played
I don't
basically
think I'd want to.
space Rome most of the time. I'm planning to make like a egalitarian, like a Federation builder soon. There's one new one that we haven't talked about that was added in the recent patch, the hive mind. If you're a hive mind, you can't be anything else, and it basically means most of your pops are drones. And a few of your pops are like the overlords that control the drones. But they're all this weird hive mind, I think. Something like that. I haven't played it myself.
It's like the Borg kind
exactly.
of
It's like the Borg.
Okay. Wow.
And what you choose here determines what options you have for your government type. So if we go back and choose, say, egalitarian, fanatic, xenophiles, then we don't get to choose. We can't pick a dictatorial, we can't pick imperial, and we obviously can't pick hive mind, but we can choose oligarchic or democratic.
I see.
In addition, what we choose here determines what civics we can get. We get 2 civic choices, and you can see that a lot of them were disabled because we don't have the correct options. But because we have fanatic, xenophile, and egalitarian, we could have a police state.
Okay. I didn't see the disabled ones. Are they going to be red or something?
They're gray. So see down here, these are all gray.
Oh, grayed out.
Like, we can't have technocracy if we don't at least have some degree of materialist, for example.
Right.
But we could have a police state, because the only thing that prevents you from getting a police state is if you have the fanatic egalitarian. That would prevent you from getting the police state. So you can see all the different things that are required, and they give you bonuses. Free Haven lets you have migration attraction, blah, 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 blah. So that's what these are. We could pick 2 at random, doesn't matter. We're not going to play this. Choose an empire name.
Right.
The best. Boom. And then you can choose
best
a flag.
birds.
You can make a cool flag. We can do this. Oh, there we go. We got a flag. Now you can check your starting weapons. We haven't talked about this, but in general, projectile weapons do more damage to shields. Energy weapons do more damage to armor. And missile weapons have the longest range and will hit more often. They have a higher accuracy. However, if the enemy has point defense systems, they can significantly reduce the amount of damage missile weapons do. So that's how these 3 interact.
So if you are facing projectile weapons,
you want to, yes, if you're facing projectile weapons, you might want to buck up your armor and not care as much about your shields.
And if you're facing energy weapons, then you want better shields against that. I see. Okay.
Or, for example, if the enemy that you're facing has huge shields, then you might consider swapping your fleet out to projectile weapons, even if they're not quite as good. If you're not as far down the projectile weapon technology tree, then you might still choose to do so because they'll have bonuses to that. And then you choose your starting FTL method. This is the ones we were talking about before. We started with warp travel. Hyperspace shows you specific lanes you can travel down. And then wormhole is the thing that have to build the special gates to do. And then you get to choose the ship appearance. So that's how you build an empire, and that's what those various ethics are and how they work.
Very interesting. Thank you. All right.
All right, now that we know what ethics are, we can take a look at the faction screen and understand. This is probably equivalent in sort of unintuitive complexity to the trade system in Europa Universalis 4. So once you understand this, everything else is going to be easier. All right. So here's how the faction system works. Our government has between 2 and 3 governing ethics. Right now we have xenophile and fanatic egalitarianism. That's what we started with. And so all our pops are either egalitarian or xenophile. So we come back here and we see that right now, based on how we're running our empire, about 74% of our pops are going to be egalitarian and about 26% are going to be xenophile. Now, why is that? If you hover over the actual thing here, it says the attraction of our pops to the xenophile lifestyle or ethic is because it's one of our governing ethics. That's what the green xenophile governing ethic means. If we hover over this, it says the reason that they're attracted to egalitarianism is because it's one of our governing ethics, but it's also because it's our ruler's political faction. It's the faction that the ruler belongs to. And we have a democratic government type, so that makes people more likely to be egalitarian. So, other things that can affect this, if you're starting a lot of wars, if you're at war, your militarist faction percentage is going to start going up. If you're fighting a defensive war, maybe the pacifist faction. I don't remember all the modifiers, but there are other things that cause people to be attracted to a particular type of thing. If you have an authoritarian government, then people are going to be shifting over in that direction. So what this means is, of all the pops that we have, about 74% of them are going to be egalitarian and 26% are going to be xenophile. Over time, they will shift to that percentage. They might not be that percentage right now, but they will shift to that percentage over time.
Okay.
If we start a bunch of wars and militarism gets up to 15%, then over time, about 15% of our pops are going to switch to militarist as their actual ethic.
Okay, so all those ones at 0% have no chance of drifting over at this time.
And anybody who is already a pacifist would shift to something else over the course of decades. Right?
Okay, right.
Because as generations grow up and they're going to buy into whatever the popular culture is at the moment. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what is going to cause drift. Is they'll drift towards these things based on the percentages, and the percentages are based on your actions as an empire and the policies that you've chosen. And you can see those by hovering over and looking at either the green thing at the bottom, or you can see the red thing at the bottom says, oh, there's actually a penalty to attraction of authoritarianism because we have a democratic government, right?
Right.
So that's where you can find out what's causing these percentages to be the way they are. Once you know what why the percentages are that way, you can then adjust things a little bit. And if you look this up on the wiki, you can see all the different factors that affect what causes these things to be. Now, a faction will spring up when a certain number of pops are of that ethic type. So this is an egalitarian faction, and you know what? It doesn't tell you anywhere that this is an egalitarian faction. You can figure it out because these are citizens for freedom. If they were like the Imperial Royal Society, then they would be an authoritarian faction, right? But you can look it up on the wiki if you're confused and you're like, I'm not sure if that's a spiritualist or a pacifist faction. You can look it up.
What about that symbol? Doesn't that symbol tell us? The symbol looks like a...
Damn it. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Mark, for teaching the teacher.
I taught you one thing today.
Yes. The egalitarian scales is going to always show up here for an egalitarian faction. You're right. That's exactly right. I'm an idiot. Okay. So the progressive faction is a type of egalitarian faction. There are other types of egalitarian factions that might have been generated. It's random which one we get. Later on, we're almost certainly going to get a xenophile faction popping up once our population gets big enough. It's once you have at least 5 pops that support a particular ethic that I believe creates the faction. So, we have a progressive faction. What does that mean? Well, if we have... if we don't have an authoritarian government, then all our pops of this faction are plus 5% happiness. Boom. Easy happiness. We're already done. That's done. If we allow free movement in our empire, meaning that we don't, that we prohibit forced settlement, and we disable migration controls, and we allow all races to travel as they please, then it's plus 3 happiness for this faction. And again, because it's green, that means we already apply this. This is already applied in our empire.
I see.
And if we allow all factions, all races, to reproduce as they see fit, it's another plus 2. So all those combine equal to 60%, or plus 10% rather. Right. You can see here we've got the anti-autocratic plus 5, plus 3, plus 2, means that this faction is by default happy. Right?
Right. Right.
And we could get a very unhappy faction if we get an authoritarian faction spawn in a democratic government because of what we're doing. Then they could be unhappy because they say, hey, we have a democratic government. We don't like that. then that would be minus 5% unhappiness or 10% unhappiness. You can also see here, excuse me. Now, this is yellow because it doesn't currently affect our unhappiness. But if we were to ever reverse our slavery ban and allow slavery, this would go red. So there are two types of issues here. There are issues where, if fulfilled, they give you bonus happiness, and if not fulfilled, they are yellow. And there are issues that are, if fulfilled, they are yellow and do nothing, but if they are not fulfilled, they make people very angry, right? It's kind of a, well, if you are the status quo, we're fine, but if you are not the status quo, we're very upset. Whereas these make them very happy. So that's what this means. And if you hover over it, it tells you there's no current effect, but because it's yellow, you know that means that there could be a very significant negative effect if we were ever to allow slavery.
So is there a way to test that and see how much it would change it? Or
I don't think we can actually do that.
You might change it and it really screw us up.
No, I think we're literally prohibited by our current ethics of governing to allow slavery. So
it can't even be done.
We're going to the policies and edicts window. This is where much of that stuff is controlled. So most of these are controlled either in the policies and edicts window. This determines our policies for our government. Or
slavery prohibited.
Yeah,
right?
Or in the species tab, we can set the rights of a given species. And some of those factions say, oh, all species need to have full citizenship. So if we got another species living in our empire and we didn't allow them to have full citizenship, we said, oh, they can have residence here, then that could make that other egalitarian faction very upset, right? But anyway, we'll go first. Let's take a look at our policies. So here we have slavery, and we are actually not allowed to allow slavery because we have an egalitarian ethic. Egalitarian societies cannot allow slavery. That's one of the things that prevents them from doing that. So we have to leave it unprohibited. But, you know, we can welcome all refugees from other empires that are fleeing from persecution or purging. Or we can only allow refugees from our own citizens, our own species. So if a piece of our species breaks off into and forms another rebel empire or something, we can allow them in. That's kind of what that is, I think. And this allows all different species in the core worlds, etc. They're all fairly straightforward. This is how much food we stockpile for a situation. No, I don't want to actually change that. For a situation where we're short on food.
I'm sorry. You got refugees fleeing from other planets, and they come to your planet like that.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
It's like very. That's quite detailed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see we currently are unrestricted wars. If we were a pacifist, we could only be set to liberation or defensive wars.
Okay, you can do liberation wars as a pacifist.
Liberation wars, wars of aggression are allowed, but conquest war goals may only be used against previously owned planets and planets whose dominant species is the same as us, right?
Okay.
So that's basically allows wars of reconquest. If somebody conquers us, we can declare a war and take back what was once ours. And then defensive wars only would never let you declare war of aggression where you would conquest enemies. You can declare wars of aggression where they're like the war goal is like humiliate our opponent, but you can't conquer things that way, which is interesting. And then
now, if I changed my war philosophy, would that be in effect then, mandatorily for the next 50 years or something?
But it might piss off a faction that cares about the war philosophy. Internal politics is not easy. And a lot of the times, especially with authoritarian governments, some faction is going to be upset with what you're doing. It's easier to keep people happy with the diplomatic governments, but you're much more restricted. You can't have slaves. You cannot turn away refugees, and you have to allow certain things. You have to allow all species, for example, because of the way that we are set up. So the democratic, egalitarian, hippie, happy species, ethics, they are easier to keep people happy, but they give you less options for ruthlessly exploiting your people and situation, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I didn't quite hear your answer. So if I do change war philosophy, it looks really bad, I could change it back.
You could change it back, but you can only change these every X number of years, which I think is 10 years. So you can only change one of these ethics every 10 years. Yes, that's a good question, because that matters. Otherwise, it would be easy to change them. Oh, we're going to declare war, then we're going to go back and make people happy again. Like, no, that's not how that works. Your government will not accept massive change in policy more than once every 10 years. So that's policies and edicts. Okay. You can hover over them. They're fairly straightforward. If we go to species, you can see all the different species here, and you can set the rights of a specific species, like give them specific citizenship. Now, we get full citizenship for our base species, obviously, but they can also be residents, which lowers the amount of consumer goods that they demand, but also makes them a little less happy. If you remember, consumer goods is a mineral maintenance cost based on the number of pops and the type of citizenship that they have. A caste system would basically mean anybody who's producing food and minerals is enslaved. They're indentured servants, essentially. And their happiness doesn't count, and they produce extra minerals and food, but they might rise up every once in a while and have a slave revolt. And then you got
okay, got it.
Direct slavery, which is more extreme than the caste system, and then undesirable. So you could set a particular species to undesirable, which means that you're going to be purging those pops in some way, systematically removing them from your empire.
Wow.
And the purge type, by the way, depending upon your species, could be just direct extermination, or it could be like work camps where you work them to death. That makes them produce more resources for a while and they go away. Or they could be cattle. If you're like a hive mind that just eats other species, you could farm them. You could purge them by farming them. You could keep them as cattle. There's a lot of options. Living standards. Because we are fanatic egalitarian, we can have utopian standards. Everybody's happiness is plus 20, but everybody demands plus 2 consumer goods use. It's very difficult to make that pay off, but if you can, it's pretty cool. We currently have decent living standards, so everybody's at normal happiness with consumer goods of plus 1. Social welfare is slightly in between. And chemical bliss, consumer goods uses plus 3, but the output of the pops of this species is like drastically reduced. They're
sedated.
They're sedated with like super awesome drugs that are just like, dude, we are so happy right now. I'm not sure when you would use chemical bliss, but it's a thing. There you go. Or you can make them non-existent living standards. You can only do that for undesirables. And basic subsistence, that goes the other way. You can force military service, which allows them to become...
Species, right?
These are by species, so it can become armies, generals, and admirals. Colonizations are forbidden or allowed. Again, the defaults here are all set up based on our starting type. So migration controls, this is one of the things. Because we don't have migration controls, our egalitarian faction is happy. If we said migration controls enabled, means that we're preventing a particular species from traveling from planet to planet freely, that makes it easier for us to control, okay, we want this many pops on this planet, we want to grow them here, whatever. We could micromanage that more, but it would make egalitarians unhappy. Population controls means, hey, they're not going to grow their population, we're going to neuter them. Forced sterilization is essentially what population controls are. So you can see that's what you would adjust in here. Okay, spending a little too much time on that, but okay.
Wow, there's all sorts of sci-fi sort of horror.
There is. You can create robots that work for you, but if you continue researching down the robot AI chain, they get more and more productive until they might actually gain sentience, and like then you have to do like, do we fight them and force them to stay our slaves, or do we let them become their own race? It's like a very interesting chain where the further you push down, the higher the chance that happens. So that's how you manage these populations. If you ever have one that's unhappy, take a look at what they're demanding and see if you can give them what they're demanding. Now, there's another way to manage these factions. If a faction pops up for, say, the militarist ethic, and you want to embrace more militarism, you're like, no, we're going to be doing a lot of wars here, we want militarism to be one of our governing factions, then you can embrace the chosen faction. And doing so costs some influence, and it would cause that to become one of your governing ethics. And that faction's happiness is vastly increased, and it shifts ethics towards egalitarianism. It increases this percentage automatically. But because we already embraced this faction, because it's one of our governing factions, we can't do it.
We can't do it with those red X's.
Yeah.
Right.
We can also suppress the faction, which reduces their happiness even more than it already is, but it also reduces this percentage by a significant amount. So if we had some authoritarians that were very unhappy, and they were at, say, 12%, we could suppress the faction, which reduces their percentage down by half to like 6%.
I
Once
see.
that, and that over time would cause authoritarian pops to slowly convert over to the other ethics. And once they got below the threshold of like 10%, then poof, they would disappear as a faction and we wouldn't have to worry about them anymore.
So that's one way to go ahead and just get rid of the undesirable factions.
It would make them unhappy for a while, but hey,
it doesn't screw up your economy too much.
It doesn't screw up your economy too much unless they're a big faction. If we try to suppress this big faction that represents 74%, that would be very bad. That would be very bad to do. Now, the other thing is, because these guys are happy, they give us free influence all the time. We get more influence from happy factions. And because we're fanatic egalitarian, keeping our factions happy is even more powerful.
Great. Yeah, they have an extra
bonus to that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So egalitarians have an easier time being happy, and they get a bonus to the influence for being happy. All right, so that's
and those
the
influence
faction
points
system.
can be used for factions, but also for declaring war or diplomacy.
Yeah,
with
you can,
other
sometimes you have to use them in
species.
diplomacy. You use them for hiring leaders. You use them sometimes for making certain choices that usually involve internal politics. But that's the general. We'll see if we come up with any new factions that cause us problems in this game. But that's generally what you can do with the factions: is you can embrace them or suppress them, or promote a faction that doesn't have a huge, overwhelming majority to try and increase its situation here. So I'm going to increase the speed to triple fast so we get through more of the game here. You can see our science ship is going around and checking out Ceres and all these other things. Here comes our thing, because I told him to come back to Earth. But let's send him back out on an exploration mission for these
now, it's
planets.
a possibility you'll find those amoebas moving around there now.
We might find other things. A leader's gained a level. So the scientist commanding our science ship has gained a level. Excellent.
What does that do for her?
She researches anomalies with lower risk, so she's better at researching higher level anomalies, and she scans planets faster, if I'm not mistaken.
It looks like we have a lot of undeveloped resources in Sol at the moment.
Yeah, well, we're working on that.
Energy,
So, okay, here.
2 mineral. Okay.
You saw, if I hold down Alt or click this button in the bottom right, the Details Map mode, it shows in green resources that are currently in Sol that are currently being exploited.
Alt for details, right.
Yep.
Okay.
And so green is currently being exploited, white is not yet exploited, but found.
So we've got 2 exploited and 2 to be exploited.
Yeah. And if you click on this button, then the default is the detailed map mode. And you can see in the detailed map mode, it shows you all the planets that are potentially habitable, but outside of your colonization range, so you don't care about those. But when you turn off the details map mode, it hides those because you don't really worry about them. Interestingly enough, we also, so system survey complete is just telling us we finished surveying Sol, and hey, look, the word Sol is now in bright white letters instead of being in gray. So that tells us that Sol is completely finished surveying. We surveyed every planet and asteroid that we could survey there. Now, because we queued up our science
green ship, that is a
civilian ship.
Oh, that's the civilian ship. That's probably the science ship.
That's both the science ship. It's saying that there's civilian ships here. Okay. The military ships, actually, well, this one's in the middle, but the military ships have this sort of symbol next to the star with the little chevrons.
Is there no limit of range that these guys can? They
Only
can warp as far as they possibly want.
As long as there's a star there, they can keep going from star to star to star to star, and they can keep going. But you can see how these have the chevron and the little star next to it. That means military fleets located here, and it's green, so it means ours. And this means civilian fleets located here. So this is our construction ship, and this is our science ship. When it pops over there, you'll see there'll be a green thing there indicating, hey, there's our ship. If you see blue, blue is allies, and yellow is non-hostiles that are not our allies, and red is enemies.
What is yellow again?
Non-hostiles that are not yet our allies.
Well, there's a yellow one over there at the top of the.
That's not a ship, though. That's a potentially habitable planet. That's not perfect for us.
Oh, okay, that's a habit.
It's not a continental world, but it is an ocean world. Right. So the details mode shows us all the reds, but we don't care about the reds because those are like 20% habitability. We don't even want to go there. But greens and yellows stay on the map.
Those Corvettes that have been traveling and traveling, are they going to be breaking down or anything?
No, there's no. That's what the maintenance cost is for. They've been being maintained.
Oh, okay,
So no worries
okay.
there.
So that's why they have a maintenance cost, right? Okay,
Yep.
fair enough.
So there's no durability or anything on them. And we can see here our science ship is doing his thing. He's researching. The first thing was a bus, this gas giant. And now he's going to these things, and he's going to eventually go over and research Alpha Centauri. Now, we don't need to tell him, hey, go there immediately. Okay, hang on. Counter at Jib. Let's go to it. This is our Corvette fleet. And the Corvette fleet has found a strange alien vessels here called bugbears. But we can't see them because they've already started to leave. So we lost, I think, the ability to see them.
What's that thing that looks like a Lego block up at the top?
Up at the top. Oh, building construction complete. We completed a research station. Our construction ship has finished completing.
It's a notification.
Just letting you know. It's a notification. Okay. So now we could investigate bugbears. They're pretty far away. We can probably ignore them for now. Aha. Here we have a level 2 anomaly somewhere in Alpha Centauri. And it's a default failure risk of 20%. And we have a level 2 skill person, so there's no difference. If they were level 3, they would lower the failure risk. And if they were
10%?
and if they were level 1, they would increase the failure risk because they'd be a 1 trying to do a 2. So here's the question.
Okay.
Would you like to research this and maybe get a pretty cool thing? Or do you not want to take the risk? We can come back to it later when they're level 3.
Is that picture there, that graphic, indicative of what could happen?
Maybe. A large amount of ship debris can be found in orbit
up
around this moon, possibly the remnants of some kind of massive fleet action. So what would you like to do?
Well, I hate to... it's a little early in the day. Maybe we can get her up to 30% and then come back for a 10% risk. I'm more...
Sure. So we'll leave it for now.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not super...
But we'll still have that question mark there.
Yep. You still got the little... See the little...
Now, what would you have done? Would you have gone ahead?
I'd probably come back later. I don't want to lose my level 2 leader. So also on the details map mode, if you hold down Alt, you can see every anomaly would be marked out on the map. Now, there's only one anomaly that we haven't yet researched, and it's right here. So you can see the little...
microscope.
Microscope with a 2 next to it, says it's a level 2. And if we go in here, you can see, there it is on this planet. Level 2 anomaly. So if we wanted to come back and do it later, we just select our science ship, right-click, and say research. I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
So, hey, look.
It's very quick. Okay.
We have fully surveyed Alpha Centauri. That's why it's no longer partially green. Like, this is partially yellow. This is now fully green, meaning that we have actually surveyed this planet completely. So if we click on this, it takes us right to this planet. And wow, this is a really nice planet. There's only a few tile blockers, toxic kelp, and mountain ranges that we do not know how to get rid of. We could get rid of those yellow ones on our home planet, but we can't get rid of toxic kelp yet. We don't know how to do it.
This looks like a bigger planet.
It is a bigger planet. It's an 18 versus the 16, which was our home planet. And we can see here on the planet summary, there's no special features in this planet. Sometimes they have like euphoric atmospheres or something weird going on with them. And its habitability is 80% because it's just like our home. It's fairly similar to our home Earth. It's continental. And you can see on the surface, it's got a bunch of power. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 power spots. It's got some food a little bit here. So it's looking pretty good. And in order,
what's the gear again? Is that
is physics or engineering research.
Engineering. Okay.
So it's got engineering research here, and society research there. And it's got quite a few minerals too.
Right. It's a pretty nice planet, so it's worth possibly building a colony ship, I assume.
Oh, it's definitely worth building a colony ship. There's a lot of open space for Pops to grow and build buildings on. Now, to colonize requires influence. The further away from your territory, the more it costs. To the point where if you're trying to colonize way over here and we haven't really expanded very far, it could cost hundreds and hundreds of influence. And sometimes it could be just beyond your capacity if you try to colonize way across the galaxy when you don't have enough influence to do so.
So basically this puts a leash on you from colonizing too far away.
We can colonize all the way out to here And it says not surveyed, but it probably would only cost maybe 100 influence.
100.
But we only have 180. So this is
don't want to burn it all up.
Yeah, we don't want to burn it all up. Now.
So now, okay, go ahead.
We have a couple of choices here. I'm going to show you one other thing. Another one of these, which is very valuable, is the expansion planner. This shows you all habitable worlds that you have surveyed. You can also uncheck this to show you all worlds that are nearby, potentially habitable worlds.
Okay.
So you can see there's an ocean world over here, there's an arid world here, arid. But you do is colonizable, it'll only show you the ones that are colonizable, but see this ocean world here? When we survey this ocean world, it will pop up under is colonizable, because at that point it will have been colonizable, because you can't colonize until it's surveyed.
Okay.
So you can use these check marks to limit yourself to seeing only the things that are immediately colonizable right now, or all the things that have been surveyed, including the things that we can't currently colonize, because, hey, maybe the things that we have surveyed but can't colonize is in another empire space. Or maybe we've surveyed it, but it's an arid world and we can't colonize that, right? Mm-hmm. And you can do that by adjusting the percentage of habitability here. And you can say, oh, only human colonization. Or maybe we have one of those birds that are good at savanna as part of our empire. We can colonize, if they are part of our empire, we have another species that specializes in savanna, we can use them to colonize savanna worlds. Instead of just using our humans
with us?
Humans would colonize the worlds that are wet, and we'd use our birds to colonize our dry worlds.
So the humans still wouldn't be able to follow along and
be
part of it.
They could, but they'd be unhappy there because they're not adapted to it.
Right. Unhappy, right.
So the happiness cap is based on the habitability of the world. So anyway, this shows up here. We can immediately go to it and see it again. It also tells us the size, how much it will cost, and the native resources. There's only 3 food there, but there's 6 energy and 11 minerals. That's pretty good.
11 minerals, nice.
Yeah, quite a lot. So we could, from this interface, also colonize. We don't have to go directly to the world. We can just do it straight from this interface. And this would show us all of our current planets, and you select one, and it shows you all of the different species that could be used to colonize it, and then you click the button to do it. Now, we can't because we don't have enough minerals. So here's the question I pose to you. We have all of these resources that are currently exploited in Sol. Do you want to build another station to get more minerals, or just save up for a colony ship?
Situation log updated.
You mean save up energy points?
Minerals, because we need 350 minerals to build a colony ship.
Okay, so we have 206 minerals. So,
yeah.
Well, I don't see any reason not to continue to build minerals. That's my attitude. But I had another question about that. This represents that the government controls these minerals, or the planet does. Is there a free marketplace where you can go and buy them, sort of like you do in Endless Legend, where you can go and buy on the open market minerals and things that you might need? Do they have that?
If you have Leviathan's expansion, there are things called enclaves, and one of them, it's basically a space station. A neutral space station that you can't declare war on, that just is neutral, it's its own thing. And one type of enclave is a trader enclave. They will allow you to trade 2,000 minerals for 1,000 credits, or 2,000 credits for 1,000 minerals. And if you do a lot of trading with them, I think that ratio gets better over time.
So that's very interesting. It's like a Babylon 5 sort of.
Yeah, thing. Sort of. It's a neutral space station that specializes in mercantilism, merchants and trading and stuff.
Okay, so we don't have that here right now. No. So I would say
there's usually 2 or 3 scattered across the galaxy, depending on the size. And there's also an enclave that specializes in a knowledge. So you could purchase special scientists from them that are really good at research, etc. Okay, so your choice is take the construction ship and build mining stations.
I would do that. Yeah, I would go ahead and build some minerals. There's no reason. Of course, if we do that, then we have to spend the minerals to build them.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
But it increases the rate at which we get new minerals, which is good in the long term. So it's kind of a trade-off. Do we want to build a colony first to do this first? Let's take what you said, build a construction ship, build a mineral place. Now, you see this blue here, this blue territory? Those are our empire's borders. Any stars that fall within those borders can be mined, whether we have a planet there or not. So Bernard's star over here, if we explore that with our science ship, and we find a bunch of minerals and energy and science planets, then we can go and build stations there just like we can on Sol, because it's inside our borders.
Well, it looks like it's slightly outside. Oh, wait.
It looks like it, but you see it's got that little stand that goes down because it's above the plane of the galaxy. So it's just showing us. That's a nice little visual touch. Now, we know that there's 3 minerals and 2 physics in Alpha Centauri, but we can't go build any stations there because it's outside of our borders. If we go send a colony ship there, then it becomes part of our borders when the colony is founded. It'll have its own little border range that grows over time.
Would we have to build a space station to orbit it to protect it? That's what you told me, I think. Okay.
Yeah, so you could colonize and then not build a space station, but that's dangerous because if you ever go into a war and there's no space station to defend your colony, then the enemy just comes in and invades it. So that would be good, but you don't need a space station to project borders.
Okay.
And the borders will grow based on the number of pops that you have in your empire. So they'll slowly grow bigger. There's also technologies that increase the size of the borders as well. So let's take the construction ship, and I right-click on Sol, and it says build mining stations, but it's red because we don't have 270, and the only option is build all mining stations available. If I want to build a specific one, I have to zoom into the planet and say, I want to build a mining station on Ceres. There we go, build mining station. Right?
Okay.
Okay. So...
And it just spent 100 and whatever credits.
It just spent 90 credits, yeah.
90, okay.
So, now actually, before I do that, let's do this. Just go and orbit that, actually. It'll give us a refund on our credits, I think. So, we just got our first tradition became available because we got enough unity to purchase it. So we got a couple of options. Now, expansion is pretty good for early growth because new colonies start with an additional pop. Frontier outposts cost less influence to build, and new colonies cost less influence to build. Frontier outposts have a lower upkeep. Frontier outposts, I haven't explained, but they are a way to expand your borders without a colony. Because what if you wanted to get your borders around these 3 systems, but none of them have habitable worlds? Well, you can build an outpost here, and it will have a border that expands. So you just
have to send a construction ship over there to do it?
Yep, you would build a construction ship over there, and you cannot build an infinite number of these outposts because each one costs 1 monthly influence to maintain. But that's why I was pointing out the traditions. In the expansion tradition, it lowers the frontier outpost upkeep by 50%, effectively doubling the number of frontier outposts you can have. So you can gather the resources from all the different minerals and planets and stuff in an area where you don't have any habitable worlds. But right now, we're looking okay. We're going to get Sirius, which will expand over probably to cover Jib and Davisa. We're going to get Alpha Centauri, which might expand to cover these 2 stars. And we'll try and get Bongo, which is going to expand to explore these stars over here. So we'll be okay with probably not too many worries about that. But that's still good. It's still good to get expansion early in the game. Now, we could also get Prosperity, which is about mining station build costs are lowered by 33%. Early in the game, that can save us a huge amount of minerals.
So that's an economic one.
This is an economic one. It's all about building upkeep is reduced, ship upkeep is reduced, ship cost is reduced, and then the final one here is that the terraforming cost of planets is reduced. And the final one in expansion allows us to control more core sectors, and we'll get to that in a future. Discovery is all about scientist recruitment cost goes down. This is all about science. This is about research station build cost is reduced instead of the extraction, the mining station. And then this is about technology going faster. Harmony is all about getting more happiness with your people. Domination, is a military one. Supremacy is a different military one. And diplomacy is for building federations. So I would suggest expansion, prosperity, discovery. What do you think we should do?
Well, I tend to go for, if I haven't seen any risky enemies yet so far, I'd go for prosperity and take the risk.
Cool.
Of of doing it that way.
Well, this makes
just to
all our
build up
stuff
the
cheaper,
economy.
including ships. So it's if we do have to go into a war, it makes all our ships cheaper once we get into it. So we got the first pick, which is mining station build cost reduced, which means now when we go to build this mining station on Ceres, instead of costing 90, it costs 60. That's a pretty significant
Whoa, that's
discount.
huge.
33%. So
Okay,
now,
so that brings one question to mind before I forget it. Now that we can research harmony, we could go into expansion, whatever. What are the victory conditions then?
you ask a very important question. Yes, and I kind of forgot. Where is that actually? Under.
Well, if you don't know how to play the game, you don't need the victory.
No, I don't know where it used to be
I
on
don't mind
this
that we don't know that
tree.
yet,
The victory conditions are essentially there's a Federation victory condition. Oh, here it is. Situation log victory. So domination victory is if you have 40% of all the habitable planets in the galaxy under your control. Conquest victory is if you have subjugated or conquered all other empires. And then Federation victory is if your Federation holds 60% of all habitable planets.
So those are the three things. There's no science victory. There's
Nothing
no...
like that yet. I expect we might see something like that in the future, maybe from new expansions. But similar to Europa Universalis 4, victory, yeah, you could get the highest score, but the journey is what it's all about, right?
I don't know. I'm really trying hard to get into first place, but the Ottomans are not going to.
So yes, that is the ultimate goal, is victory on here. Or you might be going for a specific, very hard to get achievement. All right. So,
all right, very good.
New question for you. We have the bugbears that we could research and the furries. I think the names on these are interesting there because normally it's like alpha aliens, omega aliens, and things like that, but it's also based on your race, so I guess that's interesting.
Yes, they're gotta be nice.
Alpha Centauri has been fully explored. So we're going to give our science ship as idle, so I'm going to tell them to go to Bernard's Star and survey that, because that's within our borders, so we could use our construction ship to build stuff.
Yeah, that looks like a good one to have a place over there if we can get one, right?
Now, we don't need to build an expansion there because it's already within our borders. But we could build a bunch of mining stations and research stations if there are resources to exploit there.
Now, just a quick question. When we actually get the 350 minerals we need for colonization, is there an actual colony ship that's built,
Yes.
or is it just simulated?
Yep.
Okay.
You have to spend the 350, and then it takes time to build the ship in your star port, and then it sends it over here, and then it lands on the planet and colonizes.
Okay, so there is a danger of something happening.
Anomaly found.
We found an anomaly. It's only a 10% risk, because it's anomaly level 1, and we're skill 2. So I'm going to say we'll take this.
Yeah.
A class 12 asteroid orbits this planet, but this planet's the small planetoid's orbit appears to be far too stable for it to be a natural occurrence. Let's look at that and see what we can find. And our construction ship is done, but we're going to leave it idle for the moment so we can save up 350 for that colony ship.
We had another encounter, the furries again.
We've got receiving transmission from the G-Brew Accord. They appear to have successfully translated our language. Diplomatic channels are now open. So that was one of those races. It looks like it was the other one. So we gained 33 influence from meeting them.
I don't know who it was.
Whoa! That's interesting.
Wow, that's
the
a
G-Brew
nasty
Accord. So
looking-
we met another race. This is not one of those just space animals that we found earlier. Like the space amoeba is just a space animal. It's not really sentient per se.
This is a real race.
It's a real race that can communicate with us. I bring greetings from the revered elder, blah, 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 blah. Now, what we care about on this screen are their ethics, their spiritualists, and their fanatic egalitarians, and their Federation builders. These guys are very likely to be a good ally for us.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And then the other thing is, this is sort of the AI's personality, is their Federation builders. And then they are also a theocratic republic, that's their government type, and it shows us their civics. That's like we have our own civics and things like that. And this is their symbol. And as far as I can tell, responding in any of these given ways literally doesn't mean anything, as far as I can tell. So I'm just going to pick one. And we have the first alien encounter, and this is a momentous occurrence. Now, we can actually zoom out and see, oh, there they are. There's the Jeeb. Oh, so the guys that we met in Jeeb earlier were the actual aliens.
So were those the furries or the fuzzies?
Whatever the other ones were, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to speed things up again and continue, and we'll see what our science ship is discovering in that. It's researching that investigation of the anomaly in Bernard's star that we had them looking at earlier. For some reason, someone has towed an asteroid into a stable orbit around that planet. The massive engines, sections, and braking thrusters can still be found on the surface. Although they have long since been rendered inoperable, whoever did this also mined asteroid for minerals. But those operations were seemingly abandoned shortly after they began. And this means that this planet gives us a permanent +3, not us, but if we put a research station there, it will give us a permanent +3 to research. Boom, there it goes. So because we successfully discovered that anomaly, we can now build a research station here which generates physics or engineering research.
Engineering research at level 3, that's pretty good.
Yep, +3. Oh, we found another anomaly. We'll go with your strategy now, and if it's at 20%, we're going to leave it be and keep going.
Yeah, since we're going to continue to play this, yes.
Yep. We're gonna call a stop here in a minute for the part 1 of this tutorial, because I unfortunately have another engagement today. I'm going to the in-laws. And then we will continue this in the future. So we now know without a doubt that living and thriving biosphere, blah, blah, blah. This usually comes up all the time. So we can either begin the Habitable World Survey event chain, which gives you a little reward at the end, or we can say, I don't care, and get 20 influence. We don't really need the influence now, so we'll take the event chain.
All right.
So if we look at the situation log now, Habitable World Survey. When we survey 8 habitable worlds, we will complete it and we'll get a little thing. Probably a bunch of influence. More than we would have gotten.
Very fascinating, yeah.
So this is where a lot of the story of what's going on comes into play. It's pretty interesting. So we are still waiting on our first researches to come through because I've been playing very slowly with lots of pauses, but I'm going through at speed 3 now, and we'll see how things go.
We almost have fracking done.
We do. And let's see. The other things that you can see... System survey complete very quickly. Let me survey Sirius. Hopefully we can colonize that before Jeep does. Actually, we don't know what is their type of planet. They actually like arid worlds. So we don't have to worry about them colonizing Sirius, because the only habitable world there is a continental world. If we saw arid worlds, it would show up there's an Arctic, there's an arid, so they're going to colonize their little area.
Now, how many factions are in this elliptical galaxy? Do we know
I think there's about 11.
11? Wow. Yep. Okay.
Research complete.
So there's our first completed research. That's the mining network. So now we could upgrade those buildings if we wanted to. But now we click New Research, and we get to pick 3 new cards have come up.
Got. Okay.
Yep. So we got nanocomposite armor. This is a component for our ship, which increases the armor. Or a mineral processing plant. This is different from the mining network that we just researched. This is a planet unique. You put this on the planet one time, it produces 2 minerals in that spot, and boosts the output of the whole planet's minerals by +10%. So it can be very valuable if you have a planet that has a lot of minerals on it, which, if we remember correctly, Alpha Centauri does. So this could make Alpha Centauri a better powerhouse. We could get powered exoskeletons for our army damage and mineral income, so it makes it easier to mine minerals, and it also leads down the robotic path. So all 3 of these are good. What do you think we should take?
That mineral processing plant can only be built on one planet, or only
one per planet. That's exactly right.
I don't know. My instinct says go for that.
Okay. Boom. We got it. Speeding along. We're almost at 350. And there it is. We're 1 month away. You can see the time ticking by over here. This is every month we get 13. Now, we've reached the maximum on food, so that means that the +3.5, if we were to zoom in on Earth, for example, you can see the default speed is +1 growth, but we are +1.15 per month because of the bonus food that we have up here. If we had more bonus food...
200. We only have 200 storage.
Yep, it's a 15% boost to our speed of growth here. And if it was like +6 or 7 or 8 that we had in surplus across the Empire, then this would grow even faster. Now...
Seems like... Okay, I'm just looking. It looks like we have more of these slum areas or something.
No, they're the same amount. They're the same amount as before. Now, because we researched the next version of this mining network, we could go here and click Upgrade. Or, you see the little yellow button there? That just upgrades it automatically. Now, I don't want to do that because we need those minerals. And it costs, a bunch of resources to upgrade it. We would upgrade it to mining 2, would cost us 90 minerals. We don't want to spend that. We want to build the colony ship. But that's how you would easily upgrade something that has a linear path. The mining network is just going up one path, mining network 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, the basic science lab would never have a little arrow because we need to choose, oh, do we want to make it a engineering lab, a society lab, or a physics lab? Anyway, so.
All right, well, I'd have to say this is probably about the correct amount of time for absorbing the information.
So
I don't think I could learn much more anyway after this. So.
Right, so we'll start next time colonizing this new planet. Actually, this is the wrong thing. Expansion planet.
Sounds good.
Colonizing this new planet and seeing how that works. All right?
Sounds good. Thanks for the tutorial. I'm learning quite a bit.
All right.
And anxious to get started on my own, I think. But I'll try not to do anything further that's a pace of what you're doing. Just as when I play the solitaire game.
Well, there's plenty more to talk about as we get deeper into the game. There's probably at least another hour of explanation from me. That will come across new things, like all the different other windows here that we haven't really talked about. So thanks, Mark, for joining us here, and hope to see you guys next time.
Yep, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.